Life for All presents Daily Food series, The Word of Life, the Fellowship of Life, and Living Stones for the Edification. The Epistles of John and Peter. Title of Book 4, Tested and Approved by God. Author Pedro. Week 1, Introduction to the Epistles of Peter. Tuesday, the process of transformation carried out by the Spirit. Part 1. Read with prayer. You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. John chapter 13, verses 13 and 14. Peter was a very useful apostle to the Lord and played a leading role among the disciples. God needed a strong man to start the church life, so he chose him. However, his strength was in his natural man. Therefore, he had to be perfected by God. Some of the situations in which Peter learned valuable lessons are recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. In chapter 17, when asked if his teacher Jesus paid taxes for the maintenance of the temple, he quickly answered yes. When they came to Capernaum, those who received the temple tax came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the temple tax?" He said, "Yes." And when he had come into the house, Jesus anticipated him, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth take customs or taxes? From their sons or from strangers?" Peter said to him, "From strangers." Jesus said to him, "Then the sons are free." Verses 24 through 26. Only after being questioned by the Lord did he understand that, as the Son, Jesus did not need to pay taxes to maintain his Father's house. His rashness forced him to have to prepare a rod, a hook, and some bait, to go to the sea and wait to catch a fish with a coin in its mouth. Verse 27. What a difficult situation. Due to his rashness, Peter, who was a professional fisherman, accustomed to fishing with nets, had to wait patiently. While he was fishing, he probably reflected and repented, giving God space to mold his natural impulse. On occasions like these, we can also be transformed little by little. In Matthew chapter 14, the disciples were in a boat tossed about by the waves. Jesus came to them, walking on the water. Everyone was terrified, but once again, the impetuous Peter took action and went to meet Jesus also by walking on the water. However, soon after, overcome by fear, he began to sink. Again, he was admonished by the Lord, and immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased. Matthew chapter 14, verses 31 and 32. Why did these things happen to Peter? Certainly, God was polishing him. Continuing in the Gospel of Matthew. From that time, Jesus began to show to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed, and be raised the third day. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "Far be it from you, Lord. This shall never happen to you." Chapter 16, verses 21 and 22. Peter, with his natural love, did not accept the thought that the Master would suffer or die. Nevertheless, Jesus said to him, "Get behind me, Satan." Verse 23. Such words certainly shocked Peter, but throughout the Bible, we see that he stood out among the apostles because his name is mentioned frequently. This happened because God was preparing him to take on a greater responsibility than the others. During the Last Supper, in chapter 13 of the Gospel of John, there's another important lesson learned by Peter. At that time, sandals were worn, and the streets were mostly of dirt. Hence the custom of washing feet before meals, a task that in the homes of the rich was done by the servants. At that supper, the disciples must have been waiting for one of them to take the initiative to wash the feet of the others. However, none of them did so because it was an unappreciated job. Then Jesus stood up, took a towel, and girded himself, and humbled himself, taking the initiative to wash the feet of the disciples. Verses 2-7. Peter once again reacted without thinking. "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "He who is bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you." John chapter 13, verses 8-10. This is a warning for us today. We are not here to be served, but to serve. And we need to teach this to the younger generation. However, I would like to warn you, let us not think that others are servants at our disposal. On the contrary, the service that the brothers and sisters provide us is so that we can serve the Lord together, but never so that we can get used to being served, because Jesus left us his example of serving. This environment of serving one another results from the growth of the divine life within us.